Alright, hopefully the audio is sorted. Hello and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugin Along, we fixed how the Deed tooltips are created, improved the feedback when LOTRO Companion thinks the character has finished a deed that Deed Tracker doesn't know about, including like a email these over to this email address message, if you want. And we converted the prior size-dependent mount deeds to their correct 3.0 versions. So if you were a Hobbit and you were auto-assigned to the large version, that's going to get sorted out in the transition over to the new file format. Today, we're going to start by tracking down 2 bugs related to that new save file format that I've seen over the last week. Tillerian in chat was asking about when this version of Deed Tracker will be released, but as long as I'm still finding these bugs, I'm reluctant to inflict it on people, because I wouldn't want to see anyone's data, save files being corrupted or anything like that. So we have a little bit more working through bugs to do. But as always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions about LOTRO in general or plugins in specific. But first, there was a question in Little Redhead's stream about carryalls, and I was just going to share what I do, which I think is going to be pretty similar to what she does. So when we come on in to shared storage, we can see that I have splurged perhaps needlessly, but I have splurged on carryalls. For me, I really enjoy the immersion into the world of Middle-earth, and I don't so much like the MMO concessions to, you have an inventory, and you have to carry about putting things in inventory and having to carry them. I just want to pick things up and keep going as we're running through wherever we are. And so for me, carryalls are a very nice way to just abstract away the inventory problem to just not worry about it. Put aside that part of the MMO and focus on the story and the locations and whatnot. And that way I can ignore all of the inventory management until I choose to engage with it. So just have stuff go into carryalls, deal with it later. And then when it's time to be like, oh, I'm going to work on crafting, or I'm going to work on whatever, turning in tasks, I have the stuff there and I can engage with it then. So for me, it's about picking which parts of the game I want to engage more with, and splurging a little bit on the carryalls to deal with the rest of it. And so task carryalls are pretty easy because they have task in the name, and so they will sort differently. But I do have a tab here that I call task because that's also where I put other task things that maybe don't fit in my carryalls because I don't have enough of them. But someday maybe I'll get some more task carryalls. So, carryall. So, for the rest of them, as I think it was Just Right in chat was saying, we're looking forward to the day when we can rename or recolor or somehow identify carryalls. But in the meantime, usually I have carryalls for a purpose. So, big fan of just picking up those minerals when we go out, get that rich iron, get that gold, get that ancient iron, whatever it is. And so I have a couple of carryalls just dedicated to metals because I'm getting a bunch of those. So I have 2 of them. The first one is for high-level metals, which in this case is Kalinard on this server. The second one is for lower-level metals, Supreme and lower. So that's your Khazad, Skarn, and below. And of course, all the myriad different bars they can turn into go there as well. So if we go ahead and pull that out, we can see all the different ingots and all the different ores. And so there's only 31 of them, but conceptually it's very useful for me to just have a little extra space for the random bar of maybe silver iron or something that sneaks in there. And so due to a quirk of how these things are stored, Calerio says, I need to level up my carryall game. Don't feel like you have to emulate me. This is a me problem, but I do appreciate the ability to have these. So the way the LOTRO client will show you things in your shared storage, the order is maintained. These will always be in the same order regardless of what order I put them into storage. They're sorting on some sort of internal ID, and so I know the first one in metal is always my high-level metals, the second one is always my low-level metals, and the third one is always my crit stuff. So we can pop that open. That's going to be your brimstones for metalworking. That's going to be your rock salts for jewelry. Oh, it's been a while. Your whetstones, your flax, your all of those +2 crit chance items, including your shards and your. I don't know what universal solvents are good for, so I just stick them in there too. So, but your mithril flakes, all of that. So it has to do with. Oh, that's interesting. Universal, optional. I have more than 148 of those, I thought. Did those sneak somewhere else? Well, it's okay. That's what I do, is I rely on the fact that the game's always going to keep those 3 things in that order. So if I know that I'm looking for a high-level metal, I know which one of these 3 bags I'm going for. And I don't have to be sorting. I just go to the metals. It's also where I will chuck things during play sessions. Oh, I have metals. I'll put them here, and I'll sort them into the right bag later. So that would look like, for instance, if I had picked up some fiber and some shards and some, I don't know, cracked Hellvark symbols. The way that looks for me is I'll put them into shared storage during a play session. Because I have a subscriber buffs, I can just pop that in whenever. I don't have to go back to town. But if you do go back to town, that's when you would do it. And then just check that auto box and then just pull out the things that you intend to go into there. And then I uncheck it because I don't want other stuff to go in there. That would just ruin my whole system. Same thing. I know Affidel, which I've marked here as metalworker/tailor. I know that this crafting carryall is related to those. And since the metals are somewhere else, because they're so global, that must be my tailor bag. So that's going to have my leathers. Probably should have my flaxes in there too. So when we get access to higher level content and this crit bag starts filling up, I'll shift those flaxes on over. And Affidel is also my main, so that's where I care most about essences and enhancement runes. And so the first one, the first one there is essences, and the second one is more traceries and enhancements. So any essences that I have that I want to keep, I put in there. Any traceries and enhancement runes I have, I'll put into the one dedicated for that. And so it's a little bit easier for me to find what I'm looking for there. And it just goes like that, right? This is not, this is a system that works for me. Aaron Bard says, I'm with you on the immersion versus inventory management. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Edgar Arthur has information. Universal solvents are for essence crafting, which isn't really a thing until level 100. That explains it. I keep making new characters, so I don't really spend a lot of time crafting post 100. I look forward for the day when Treebeard reaches. What is the area east of Osgiliath? North of Ithilien. Like I hear all about these herbalist quest lines, and it's like I should do some of that someday. So Schildwacht I have marked here as my jeweler/cook, J/C. All of these are just abbreviations because we only have so many characters for that title of the bucket. And Schildwacht is already a pretty long name. So I know that 3 of them are cooking related and 1 of them is jeweler related. So if I pop out that first one, here's all my jewels for the jeweler, and that's going to be the uncut gems and the polished gems. And the next 3 are going to be for cooking. And so I've got the one for I believe this is stuff that I make, so intermediary ingredients. It'll be ingredients in your cook panel. So your hearty stock, your marinated beef, your pie crust, your whatever. The next one in there, that's going to be stuff you buy from a vendor, because I don't want to keep buying stuff from a vendor. So I just stock up, right? So I've got 4,000 lumps of butter. It's fine. I don't have a problem. And the final one is the raw ingredients. So these are the things you get out of the field, the cabbages, yellow onions. So that's just a way for me to keep it straight in my head. So if I know I'm looking to get something or put something, I know which one of those is there because it's in the Schildwacht bucket. So can't label the bags, but I can label the bucket they go in and keep it structured in my head. What is what? Do you have cheese?
No, a fish.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it. The redhead has fish. Casper would very much like it to be inside of him. Okay, so my scholar slash weaponsmith, these are all about scholar things. And so one of them is going to be dye ingredients, and one of them is going to be the rest of it. Except on this server, Little Redhead is doing the scholar, the main scholar work, and so I've been pushing the raw ingredients off to her. But on other servers where I have more scholar materials piling up, so this was more of a, they were on sale for at least 25% off at some point, and I was like, oh, well, I'm going to want them for my scholar weaponsmith at some point, and so I picked those up. So they're not heavily in use, but one of them would be all of the dye ingredients that you can get from farming or collecting in the wild. Yeah, your keyboard has an off button. Maybe that would help with the cat walking on it. So picking up all those things in the wild, indigo and whatnot, and also the ones you can farm. Yeah, I think that's all the interesting stuff. I have some extra ones that haven't come into play yet because I was worried because of the way they kind of hold these carryalls sometimes and don't make them available. The monetization team has their whole logic regarding it, but as this server grows, we're going to be reaching new levels, new stuff I want to throw into carryalls, and I just didn't want to be like, my system is ruined because I don't have that one carryall, so I have some extras, and they're sitting around. Anyway, so that's my way, perhaps complicated, but works for me system of managing a lot of carryalls when you can't label the carryalls. Clary says, my OCD heart loves the system. I'm glad that it appeals to you. Aaron Bart says, same question as to Little Redhead stream. How do I find the stream session again, please, for review? So I also have a playlist up on Twitch. I don't understand Twitch's playlist system. I know enough to be able to add things to it. But also, I upload things to her Life Beyond the Shire YouTube channel as well. So same link as well. And maybe I will try to cut out just this section talking about that and have it be its own little video. Because I certainly see a lot of people who express frustration at the difficulty in telling apart their carryalls. And I feel like if more people knew that the order in which they show up in your shared storage is consistent because it's sorted by some sort of internal ID that does not change. So if people knew it was consistent, if nothing else, you could just have all 10, 20, whatever in a single bucket. But I feel like that gets... that's easy to find the fifth carryall in there, but it's harder to be like, okay, now that I pulled out 4 carryalls, I need this, what would be the 17th carryall, but now it's shifted by, So for me, 4 in a single shared storage tab is about the limit. More than that, and it's like, maybe we can do that better. All right, so that's a good idea. Let me make a note to myself. Cut out carry-all rant into its own video. Cool. That seems like a good to-do item. Okay. Awesome. So, great question. I've seen it on the forums as well, and I've shared some pictures on the forums, but there's so much chatter that goes on in the forums that I think older threads can kind of recede into the background unless they keep a bookmark to them or something. Or people hit upon the magic combination of words that will pop that to the top of their search result. So I think it's a good idea to extract just that out of this much longer video for those who are interested in a visual guide through that. Okay, so that being said, we are here in Glen Hillock, and we're going to look at the deed tracker. There's been a couple of bugs that I've seen recently. I don't like bugs. Features that don't work right is one thing, but when it comes to this new file format, we gotta catch all those bugs because the system does not behave well if you do not properly upgrade from version 2 to version 3. It just stops working, and that's not good. So let's go ahead and start pulling stuff up. So we're going to be using Visual Studio Code for editing the Lua plugin files today. And if you are using Visual Studio Code, I do recommend the LOTRO API extension that you can get. This is by Lunar Water, and it adds the IntelliSense around the LOTRO aspects of this, beyond just the normal Lua stuff. And we're going to be using Fork as our UI for source control. And this is wrapping around a Git repository. And you can find this at fork.dev. It's an incredibly frustrating program to search for. I need fork. Good luck. Okay, let us see what's going on in our local changes, because we can see we have more than just the debug options. Looks like we have the things we're going to work on added to the to-do file. So to-do file changes. Let's go ahead and get that committed so we have a clean working directory. All right, I'll go ahead and even push that out to the server. Okay, so we have a clean working directory. The only changes are turning debug options on. That's going to make it very easy to see what we've done, revert it if we need to, and be confident in our commits. And we have a couple of bugs, one of which I just saw during Little Redhead's stream, so that's excellent. In fact, I should put back my plugin data files so we can try to replicate that. Okay, so I've done that on the other screen. Normally I back them all up prior to the start of this so we can play around with things and I'm not messing up my main character files. And so I've just copied some of those back. All right, so what was that? We tried to complete Assault on the Ring Wraith's Tower, and the Git conflicting quest name bombed, and so the deed or quest window was just a blank window. Let's see if we can replicate that. So we're going to come in and get Assault on the Ring Wraith's Tower, and we should go ahead and load up the plugin. So deed tracker, let's refresh this list so it's shorter, because I moved most of this way. Oh, and we got sunrise coming up over Glen Hillock. Excellent. Okay, so we have a deed tracker. We have in skirmishes, that was the Assault on the Ring Wraith's Lair. And the reason this is a concern is a lot of skirmishes, the deed tracking the various encounters that you can see in that skirmish have an identical name to the skirmish. So the deed is called Assault on the Ring Wraith's Lair, but the quest that you get when you go in there is also called Assault on the Ring Wraith's Lair. And so deed tracker, because it's just looking at that quest completion channel, can't tell the difference. So it has to check. So a lot of skirmishes have some sort of verbal indication that the skirmish is done. Like, you did it, hero! The world is saved! And if deed tracker sees that, it can say, okay, you are no longer, probably no longer doing encounters. That was probably the skirmish ending. So we're going to come down to the debug section, and for a completion, we're going to go ahead and trigger Assault, and make sure I spelled it right. Assault on the Ring Wraith's Lair. That's important. And we're going to go ahead and mark that complete. And, okay, it is not found. What did I do wrong? Ah, there's more than one Ring Wraith, of course. Okay, so this is the replication of the bug. We can see this deed tracker, deed or quest window, is pretty much empty, and that's because we had an error, a runtime error. And whenever you have a runtime error like this, LOTRO, the Lua engine just stops with whatever it was trying to do. But that doesn't stop your plugin from working. LOTRO will still pass it other events, do other things. And so as long as one of these doesn't happen while your plugin is loading, your plugin is still running. Just that thing that it tried to do just then stopped. Which in this case was drawing the window that allows me to say that I completed the deed. So let's come on into the code to deed or quest window Lua line 54 and figure out what's going on. And I suspect the answer is I never updated deed or quest window to understand the new file format. Oops. Let's come on in. Okay. So it is not a bad idea to kind of review how this works before we start poking at it. And what we have is a window, and we have a function called getInstance, so we're probably expecting to only see one of these windows existing. And we don't want to create 17 different deed or quest windows. We just want to use the one that exists if it does. And so we have a constructor here that says if we already have one of those, we're done. Otherwise, this is the one that will be used from now on. Okay. We have a create window function, main window hold all the elements. Awesome. This is why we see anything at all. There's both a quest and deed with the same name. That's probably the. Oh no, that's the window title. Even better. Okay, so that's just the window title. All right, so let's create window. I'm going to shrink these down as we've seen them. And what line were we worried about? 54. That's still coming. All right, draw main label. So we have set text, window body. There's both quest and deed the same name. Which do you complete? Okay, that's what we're looking at right here. So this seems to have done fine. We got that. We have the add deed row. Now it kind of makes sense if we come down to set deed. We see draw main label and then add the deed row. And add deed row is where we had the error on line 54 here. Oh, interesting. So line 54, maybe we did change things. Get conflicting quest. Oh, attempt to call this is, oh, fascinating. Okay, let's check out where that is. So we're trying to call a function. It doesn't know where the function is. But this is where we would add the deed stuff. This is the heart of it. And so when you're calling set deed and the rest of this is being drawn, this is the one function that does all the stuff that is variable for the deed. And get conflicting quest should be okay, this is in conflicting quest.lua. Good place for get conflicting quest name. But what we probably have is that was moved. Conflicting quest has been moved into a subfolder. And this is a thing that I'm still trying to wrap my head around, but there seems to be a namespacing, an implicit namespacing that happens when you have a folder structure. And so everything that's in data files, we need to refer to that with data files dot the thing, is what it seems to be. And get fully qualified deed name should have that same problem. So what's going on with that? Well, we did some pulling in of that namespace into the global namespace, and I'm curious why that's not working for us here. So we have all of these, and yet get fully qualified deed name. What's going on with this? Well, that's just confusing to me. I don't know why one of them is working and the other is not. Plugin functions is... Oh, plugin functions isn't part of the data files. Okay, then we're all good. The data files folder is nominally all about all of those little pieces of information that are kind of clogging up the rest of the code. But, surprise, surprise, there's some code mixed in because anything dealing with the data of conflicting quest, it felt natural to house it in the conflicting quests file. So that's what we have, is we have a problem of side by side with this data, which if we do a search for this array, conflicting quests, it's only being used in this file. So there's no namespace issue. But let's come do a search for each one of these functions and see if someone else is calling it, it's going to need to be fixed. So disambiguate window, we're going to need that. And by golly, I should probably copy paste what it is I need here, which is data files. Yes. Okay. Let's go back to our searching. Okay, so this one is good, and we're going to move on to the next one. The cat is sandpapering the plate. It's very noticeable. Okay, get conflicting quest announce is only being used here. That's fine. Does deed quest exist? Only being used here. Does deed have conflicting quest? That's being used other places, but we have that data file's prefix. Was there announcement of conflicting quest? We also have that prefix. Check for the delayed text. We need to update that. So, data files, check for delayed text, and chat logger was already doing that. This was just a debug functionality, so we weren't really missing anything for that. So what we've done is we've gone through and checked each of these functions that were part of something that was moved into data files, now are being fully qualified in the places we're using them. Little Red Head said, I gave the cats some of my fish because I'm a sucker. You got that right. You'll never eat undisturbed again. They're very curious about human food, but they think most of it is yucky, I think. Like, I'll get some peppermints, right? And the cats will sniff it and be like, what are you on? That's terrible. Or, edamame, roasted edamame. And they're like, yeah. Chocolate, like most snacky type foods that we eat, they're just not interested in. Yeah, but as Little Red points out in chat, fish and cheese. Yeah, they'll go nuts for that. And the cheese is interesting to me. I'm not sure what's in there, and I've heard that a lot of cats, like a lot of humans, are lactose intolerant after kittenhood. So I don't know what's up with that cheese thing, but it's probably not a good idea to let them eat a lot of it. Okay, so the conflicting quest, I think, is done, which means if we come on in here and reload to get the change in code, and then go ahead and come back into our options and hit the complete button, awesome. We get a window that is properly sized and has the right content. And so what should have been seen is there's both a quest and deed with the same name, which did he complete, and it was either the quest, Assault on the Ringwraith Slayer, or the deed. And I don't think that quest annotation is correct, actually. So while we're thinking about this, let's come into our quest log, click on Show Completed. This can take a while. I believe they're working on the underlying system for quests as part of their performance improvements. But in the here and now, when you click Show Completed, you got to get a list of all of them. And if you're a level 140 character with thousands of quests completed, that takes a minute or two. So we're going to come in and say Assault on the Ring. Okay, there we go. So we have Assault on the Ring. We can see that it's just under Skirmish. And what I did here is I think I just copy pasted and got the what the deed looks like instead of what the quest looks like. That's easy enough to do. We're in the conflicting quests already. So Assault on the Ringwraith Slayer. Great. So the quest name, I think Skirmish Instance is specifically a deed thing. So I suspect I did this kind of pervasively, and so we should probably just come and fix that. All right, so double checking Trouble in Tuckborough. Also just under Skirmish. Great. So let's come on in and just do a find replace. We're just going to nix that second one. And part of the problem is I only want to affect that quest name, not the actual comment, because the comment's about the deed. There's some interesting exceptions that kind of make you think they're, I don't know, not bugs. Bugs isn't the right word, but unintentional. So Fort of Bruinen is the name of the deed for Skirmish, the Fort of Bruinen. All right, they dropped the. And it doesn't seem intentional because, but it is consistent. Battle of the Deepway, the Battle of the Deepway becomes Battle of the, or the quest is Battle of the Deepway. So it's kind of the other way around, right? So those are kind of inconsistently handled here. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Awesome. That brings us back to the start, so we're all good there. Okay, so we had a bug where, because conflicting quests, the data file was moved into the data files subdirectory, all accesses of both this array, which is only this file, but the functions that go with it needed to be referenced within the data file's namespace. That didn't happen, and so the few places, well, it didn't happen universally. We saw most of those were caught, but a few of them weren't. And because of that, those rare edge cases were triggering this bug. So we can come on in and commit that and be done with it. In fact, we're going to come on into the README file and updated the some quest names for Skirmish. Okay. So this is just a little quick run through of what did we do. We renamed that, good. We just trimmed that name, trimmed that, trimmed this, that, and we'll just walk through each of these, making sure that we didn't do one we didn't mean to. All those look intentional, awesome. We're gonna go ahead and, our to-do file. Let's go ahead and update that as well. So we're going to get rid of that bug because we're done with it. It's fixed. Completion related bug. Well, completion namespace related bug. Now, it would not hurt for me to make a little note to myself. Double check all functions in data files to make sure we're using data files dot and calling them. Cool. That'll be a nice double, triple check ourselves before we're done. I got says, oh, Aaron Bart says, my cat will eat banana. Interesting. Do they go like right through the peel? Do they eat some of the peel as well? Or is it just the soft stuff? And Garther says, my cat is the same. Sniffs at most human food, but it usually doesn't eat. Loves cheese, though. And my mom had a cat that went wild over cantaloupe. Crazy Trickster says, at least cantaloupe is healthy. I don't know if it's healthy for cats, but yeah, it's why not? I mean, in general, I think of cats as carnivorous, and so anytime they eat something that isn't meat or a meat product, it seems strange to me. Okay, Amber says, just the soft stuff of the banana. Nice. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get that data files reference. Actually, updated quest skirmish quest names do not look like deed names. Hierarchy. Okay, we're just going to commit that by itself because that's not the real fix here. The real fix is in these data files dot, data files dot, data files dot, There we go. So fix data files related bug. Great. Bug number 1 done. Remember, it says the cat is also amused by peanut butter. Crazy Trickster's gonna head out. Well, thanks for being here. Hope to see you again later. Little Redhead says, "Is it a bit all soft stuff?" I feel like there's varying degrees of soft there, but yes, it is softish, soft adjacent. Okay, there's another bug, and this one was more worrisome to me because this was I logged into Evernight for the first time in a long time, and I got an error when it tried to load my files, which is during the version 2 to version 3 upgrade process. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and try to replicate that first, and then if it happens, try to figure out what's going on. And that's one of the advantages of playing on a server and then not going back to it for a few years, is you get these really nice instances of plugin files that you can use to check on this. So I'm actually going to go into one of my backups from before I had this problem. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and copy that into the plugin data directory. And so we're over on Evernight, and this is in all characters. And what we're going to go ahead and do is just, I assume everything got changed because I logged in recently? No. Okay. Why does Bearmer have a V2 backup that looks like a V3? I don't know, but it's suspicious. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead and restore this as it was in January before I logged in there to play around with ill omens. So, we're restored, all is good. And then what I want to do is take the deed tracker information from here. In fact, I'm going to come in and get rid of anything that looks like I don't care about it. Make it a little bit simpler. Okay, and then we're going to take these and bring them over to Treebeard, which is where I am. And so this is going to go into all characters. We're just going to delete what's here and bring in this information. And just as a final check, we want to come in and make sure that we have version 2 in this file, and we do. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the 4 here. We've got version 2. We're good to replicate the problem. Okay, so that's good. Before I do this, though, I want to make a backup of this. Backup, because I want to be able to replicate this over and over. And if the files get mutated and then it fails, I need to be able to restore it. So this is going to be deed tracker v2.0 from Evernight. Actually, I don't even know. Yeah, the version 2.0 from Evernight. And that's the second one here that I care about. So we'll do it like that. Okay, good. At this point, I should be good to load, and we should be able to replicate the problem. Let's find out. Load. Cool. Now, we see, same thing, main.lua 276. At least I hope it's the same thing. That will make it a lot easier. Yes. Bad argument number 1 to pairs. Table expected got string. Sweet. How far did it get? Okay, we got through Bearmer. 276 is line what? What are we doing there? 276. We are looking at card name deeds. Okay. Bad argument number 1, pairs. Okay. So that is a string. Cool. What we want to do is we want to go ahead and spit out which character we're looking at. So debug processing v2 to v3.0 for, and then we would want that character name. Okay, and for that, let's go ahead and reset, and we're unloaded, and so we'll bring that back up. And so we can see we're processing v2 to v3 for Bearmer. So that's the file we want to look at for what is going on here. Let's go ahead and open that up. And what we see is a file that is already in version 3 format. I don't know how this happened, but it makes me very curious. And so the problem is there's a mismatch between the file format and what we have over here. I gotta say, I feel like this is a bug of my own design that will only ever affect me, because I must have logged into Evernight not thinking and gotten a partial change. So what we want to do is kind of work backwards through our backups, this is why we have backups. So what I do is once a month, give or take, I make a backup of my plugin data. This is probably more often than is necessary unless you are a plugin author. But I would actually recommend just once every couple of months, make a backup of all of your plugin data files, because things can happen, right? Your computer can have a crashing error in the LOTRO client as it is saving some of these files. A plugin could misbehave and lose some data. All sorts of reasons. More reasons if you're a plugin author, but there are still some reasons if you're just a plugin consumer. Just once in a while, make a backup of that. Put it somewhere that is outside of where LOTRO exists or your LOTRO documents exist. And just, yeah, once every month or two, whatever. I like to do it about once every month because that lets me kind of sort through this. Now, we can look at a source control to figure out when did we start doing this thing. And the answer is, when did this branch begin, such as it is? This is about the 10th one of these. Let's see, D-Tracker improvements. Where did that spawn off? Yeah, it was probably here. Okay, so that was December 14. So anything before that should be fine. Let's come take a look at that. All right, so we have our plugin data file, and function of that looks pretty similar. Okay, we've got the Bearmer stuff, and this is the old system. Okay, so I think this bug was of my own design. I think in the real world, if someone has a version 3 file, but their core settings file says it's version 2, but one of the files is actually version 3, do we feel like that's something we could check for? Like, if it looks like a version 3 file, do we just say good enough? Should I bother writing code for something that should be impossible? Is the question. I'll think about that. So what we're going to do instead is put it on the to-do list to think about that. Should think about whether we should try and detect a version 3 file during the V2 to V3 upgrade. See Evernight, a backup And what was the date on that? Cool. Okay, so I'm not going to forget about this, but I am going to say that's not a normal thing. That just happened because I had forgotten to, I assume, I had forgotten to set my plugin back to stable mode after the stream, went and logged into Evernight like a fool and corrupted my files, which is why we have backups. So what I'm going to do is say, not today. I don't think that's a problem I want to care about today. So what I'll do instead is plugins are unloaded. And we're going to come in here and just sort of double check for ourselves. So what we're going to do is, from this backup from November, we're going to restore those Evernight files and make sure that it still works. So, Bammer, Yachrin, Schildwacht, and Tideless. And we're going to put that over here in all characters. And we're going to see if this works. Sure seems like it didn't. But that's okay. We're going to try that one more time. So bad argument got no. Okay. I guess I should double check these things. Alright, so Tideless looks good. Schildwacht looks good. Yachrin looks fine. Barimer looks fine. And this is version 2. Okay. Maybe I just had not loaded it properly. So, dtracker, load. It did it again. Okay, what do we have? Upgrading save. So we have Barimer, could not update save information. That's interesting. I would kind of like to double check that that was probably a place where it had save information that it shouldn't have. And we can do that by digging into some of the files. So 5 is Ariador, I think. So let's come on into plugins, key plugins, dtracker, and source files. 5 is, class race epic. No wonder. Of course, there's 198 of them. So 1 would be the class deeds, and we're looking for that save index of 198. And all the formulas that reference line 198 are triggering. Okay, excellent. So what we're seeing is that in the list of save indices, I'm not seeing a 198, which I actually think is really interesting. So if we come in here and sort these lines, we have 197, we have 199, but apparently 198 is dead. And I don't remember why that is. I'm sure there was a reason for it. Okay, so I think this is fine. This is, there's always the chance that you have some invalid save information, and we just need to be able to skip past it. So we announced it. We announced it in info, which is interesting. I don't know if that's the right place for that. 511 also makes me curious. What's the very first save index here? Of course. This is something I hadn't thought about. The class deeds tier 1. At some point, I only had a single one for all the classes. But internally, the game actually has different class deeds tier 1. So that could have been a place where we fix that, where we take class deeds tier 1 and do a processing where we say, oh, if we have 511, we need to actually apply the correct one for your character's class. When did that happen? Oh my goodness, that seems like so long ago. Let's go into website. There we go. And let's just do a search in here for that. We're going to come on in to add a folder, and it's going to be Documents, Lord of the Rings, plugins, cube plugins, D-Tracker, a website. Okay, and this is going to be, oh, of course, that's what I was trying to put here. We're going to go ahead and find class deeds. I don't know when that happened, but I think it was a missed opportunity to do that kind of conversion of stuff. And I guess the question is now, do we account for it? Well, same question. I'm going to go ahead and punt that one to future me. So coming on down here, if we encounter a character file with the old class of deeds, for instance, should we convert to the appropriate one for the current class? Now that could actually be wrong, because if I completed the class deed as a minstrel under the old system and then did a class, wait, you can't do a class change, just race change. Okay, never mind. Wait, can you do a class change? I think it's just a race change token. Okay, I don't think they've introduced that idea yet. Okay. Okay, the redhead confirms you can do name change and a race change, but not a class change. And I think the race change just prohibits you from selecting a target race that doesn't support the class that you are. Okay, so I think that's the thing that we could do. We'll have to backtrack and figure out what those old indices were, but thanks to source control, we can do that. But I don't think it's a today activity. Okay, but we have a problem where this did not work. So we do have a main 27, bad argument to pairs. Okay, still got to figure out what's going on here. So main 274, this is going in deeds I, okay, and that was during the processing of Tedlos. Tedlos is going to be the most complicated file here, because that is the main file, or the main character I was playing over on Evernight. So let's restore, make sure we're unloaded, and we're going to go ahead and pop this file open and give a sense of what's going on here. So what we're seeing is, while we're, oops, no, come back. We are iterating through deeds. So it's 274. We're looking in character.care name deeds. And so this is from this array here. And so we can see a well-behaved 1153. Let's collapse that. 31236. Collapse that. 2153. That all looks good. 51236. Seems fine so far. 41. We've got our expanded one there, and then other stuff. Seems fine so far. 71, 61, 9153, 81. I'm still not seeing what the problem is. Oh, we have total LP available. Oh, interesting. Fantastic. It looks like at some point while I was playing Tideless and doing development, and this is the problem with doing plugin development on your main character, at some point I was slotting in the total LP available into the save file, and I think I changed my mind on that. So this is quite possibly, again, a problem that only affects me, but in case this got out into the wild, we want to go ahead and account for this. We're seeing something that's just like completed, we need to take it into account. So else if I equals total LP available, then do nothing, we no longer store this in the file. And that's it. We just need a case that accounts for it. The thing is, we could be a little bit more generic about this. We know we're looking for completed. We might see this. We could also check the type of the thing, and if it's not a table, we could not call pairs on it. And so what we want to do is else if, and what we're looking for is this thing. Else if, and we need the type of this. And I want to say it's something like type of, but that's a very C-sharpy idiom thing. So I want to come over and just say Lua type, yeah sure, type of. Oh, just type. So if type is that, all right. So what we want is if type of this is not equal to table, then info debug, probably debug, encountered an unexpected non-table and then we would like to have some information here. So this is car data, and we can go ahead and put in the character name, car name, and then that's deeds, and we would like the I. So in this case, that is I. Just enough stuff here. I probably should have done a string.format, but we're okay. I'm trying to get better about doing string.format. Okay, so we've got this, and we're going to go ahead and do car name and I, and in here we'll go ahead and do string, and I want to say it's a D? Okay, Lua string.format. Let's find out. Yeah, I'm seeing D and S. Perfect. So the string.format, the reason I'm trying more towards this is just like interpolated strings in C#. It feels like you can see what the resulting string is going to be a little bit more easily. The downside is you know it's going to be a string, but if your string is large enough, you're not going to have that locality of code where you know it is, oh, it's going to be character name is going in there. The interpolated strings in C# kind of solve that problem for me. So if you go ahead and start a string with a, I think it's $, my muscle memory is saying that, and then in braces, car name, and this is not valid Lua code at all. Let me just preface this. Not Lua code. But you go ahead and do a brace and the thing that you want to put in there, and so you get the best of both worlds. You get that that format string style thing, but the thing that's going in there is inline, and so you don't have to look somewhere else to see, oh, what is the thing that is going to go here. So the locality of code here feels a lot nicer, and so I really love the string interpolation that we get in C# and presumably other languages. Okay, that being said, what we want to do to test this is not actually call out the total LP available. We want to get into here. Do nothing. Hopefully we caught all the ones we care about. And for that, we want to go ahead and test that again. So we're going to restore these files. So toss delete that, restore that, and give it another go. Okay, 275, bad argument to format. Hoisted by my own code refactoring. All right, let's figure out what I just did. Number expected got string. Really? Oh, yeah, it is a string, isn't it? Whoopsie. Or at least it could be a string. It is a string in this case because it's not a table. Because the type of that is not a table. Well, yes, a lot of these are numbers, but let's see what happens. Gotta restore once again. All right, let's load that back up. And there we go. Okay, encountered an unexpected non-table in Carta tied those deeds total LP available. So that gives us a lot more specificity about what went wrong while not being a fatal error. And so what we're going to do is restore, come on in, and then go ahead and put our fix back that does catch the specific one of total LP available, because we don't care about that one. And then gotta remember to unload the plugin first and then change the files. And then we're going to go ahead and hopefully see no error message there. We do see we're replacing some mount stuff. The large mount with small mount. Awesome. Good job. Hide those for completing all of those. More could not update save information. Since that one's interesting. 536. 536. Epic. Minds of Mori, yes, that's where the class one got broken out, where I just had a single one to represent all of the classes, but internally, LOTRO does think of those as distinct deeds. So that's another case where 536 should have been broken out based on the class of the character to 29, 30, 31, whatever. And we can make that happen during this 2 to 3 upgrade, just in case someone is going to another old server, and for my purposes, so my characters have the right information. Awesome. Okay, that is worth coming back to source control and seeing what have we changed, and do we like all the changes. Oh, and the to-do file. Okay, so we solved V2 to V3 upgrade bug. And just for our references, that was the found in deeds, added code to check for this. Cool. So what do we have? We have the debug statement that tells us who we're processing. That should only be seen by people who have debug on, which means they've opted into this, so it's mostly for me. And then anything that goes to debug, also I tend not to worry about localization, because again, the target audience is me, but people are only going to be turning on debug if they're curious or if they receive instructions on how to do that, I think. Unless verbose logging is what turns that on. But is that available without the debug flag? I think the answer is it's not available without the debug flag. Let's remind ourselves how this works. Unload, let's load. And okay, verbose logging is available. Interesting. Okay. So yes, you still have to opt into it, but you don't need the debug flag in order to have access to the verbose logging. Again, people are going to turn it on if they want to, but they will have to intentionally do that. Okay, and then we have the check for both total LP available and then just generally catch this. We don't want to crash when it happens. We can log it. We can move on. All right. Solved version 2 to version 3 upgrade bug. Commit. Yes. So good. I feel better already. I'm curious which of those deeds, those collection deeds that had those had finished. Let's see. No, I'm not sure. Okay. That is very nice because it means the known bugs that we had regarding this file format are addressed. What else are we going to do? Let's come into the to-do file and see if we can pick off something that seems reasonable to do in the span of time that we have left. Okay, so we have some older notes here about the version 2 to version 3 upgrade. So we have something that says add code to check for the various race size specific mount deeds. You know, I've already decided this idea. Let's see. Let's go ahead and throw this into the version 2 to version 3 upgrade. I think so. Okay, I think it is a good idea, if only for my own sanity, and so we're going to promote that to an actual thing. But in a previous week, last week I think, we did add code to check for the various race size specific mount deeds. Done! If only one is completed, then it's the one that existed in version 2, and the character has it marked completed. And the character has it marked complete, then swap the ID of the old one for the correct one. And that was called out in this mount size correction table, which was a pretty straightforward one. Given an ID and the size of the current character, you have a value. So if you have the large one completed and you are large, you just keep the same one. If you have the small one completed and you are small, you keep the same one. Otherwise, you're going to swap. And we just do that for each one of those mount size. So nice. Yeah, and consider pre-creating a script to downgrade from version 3 to version 2. I'm considering it. I'm not ready for that yet, but I'm considering it. Okay, if we encounter a character file with the old class deeds or Moria deed, update to the appropriate class-specific version instead. I think the real question is, can we isolate where that change happened so that we can see what the old indices were more easily? I think the answer is probably. Let's go see if we can root around in that for a little bit. So in Fork, we have a search box up here where we can filter. And let's search commit messages for companion, maybe. Okay. The answer is it's not there. Let's search for class, which actually could be... could be a little broad because class also appears in the code as a keyword. Okay. Wow, we just do a lot of fixes here, don't we? I didn't even remember some of these. Sorry, I'm just reading through some of these descriptions and going, when did I do that? I might be going about this all wrong. When we put something out into LOTRO interface, I like to list some of the major changes that came with it. And I wonder if I can just take a look at that. Deed tracker has a space in the name. Okay, so in here, did I call this out as an important thing? Or actually, the full notes are over on the forums. So let's open that up. And I call it out here. So all of them seem to be, I'm going to say enough of them. And also support for import and deed. Completion status good. So if I search for class there, fix internal tracking of class, race, and vocational deeds. That was version 133. That was over on January 24. Feels so long ago. Fixed internal tracking. Tell me more. Alright, that was when I changed how the types were managed. That's not what we're talking about here. Alright, this might be a research offline kind of deal and come back later. Actually, let me search one more term. Split. Nope, that didn't help either. All right, yeah, that's going to be a hunt it down later because no, I just had a better idea. We have old versions here over on LOTRO interface. I keep thinking maybe I'll go ahead and delete some of them, but I haven't done it yet. And if we go ahead and download, let's see, what's an early 2022 one? Let's go ahead and download 133. Extract. So what we want to do is come on into deed info and just search for that Mines of Moria. Really? No class race epic for that? is the epic? There we go. All right, Mines of Moria. We can see, even at this point, this has been around for a while. Okay, so it predates 133. My goodness. June of 2 years ago? And now I'm beginning to wonder, like, sure, it affects me, but how many people really have characters that haven't played for years or haven't logged into a server for years? Like, I know, so many. All right, Mines of Moria was split out here as well. Nice. Fascinating. Okay, so what I'm seeing is that Mines of Moria, at least, was split out from the very public beginning, which I had completely forgotten about. So, hooray for historical records. So, if the class also was like that, then I think we're going to call this a non-issue, because you would have had to be testing this from long ago. Yeah, okay, class deeds tier 1, these were separate long ago. So you really couldn't have this problem in the real world unless you were part of the beta test. Okay. Well, it's nice to dig into it and kind of confirm whether or not it's a problem. Okay. So, if we encounter a character file with the old class or Moria upgrade, nope. In fact, I want to document this. Oh, where did fork go? That's sad. Okay, so... we're going to go ahead and stage that, saying the split occurred before the initial public release of deed tracker. Don't worry about handling this. That is almost certainly a me and close friends problem. Okay, and then we have gone ahead and remove finished stuff. To do file changes, finished stuff. Fantastic. Okay, well, we have some deeds that are not in the system because they seemed like no one could complete them. Krell probably completed them back when they were available, but there's some research to be involved in there. So that's a note to myself, but I don't think that's going to be a today issue. So next on the list would be find uses of get deed. Make sure they shouldn't also be get deed or category. What does that mean? Well, let's come on into our plugin functions and take a look at get deed or category and how it's different from get deed. Get deed, we have an IJK, and that's a visual location. So 5 class race epic, 1 class, 17, whatever, that specific deed. And so in our data files, we can go ahead and reverse engineer what that ID is, and once we have it, we can get the actual deed information. Cool. But visually, sometimes we have these things that aren't actually deeds. They're just artificial categories that don't exist. And historically, they were just listed as kind of a deed, but they were marked with a special flag that was like, yeah, it's not really a deed. And so now, if you have an IJK and you say get deed, you will get a nothing if it happens to be an entry that corresponds to a category. And I could see other meta things in the future, so, but in this case, just category. And so what we wanted was a get deed or category. That is, give me the basic information of what to draw on the screen if it happens to be a category. So it's got the same basic information of get the deed, but if it wasn't a deed, go ahead and populate it with some other stuff. And so the real question is, who is using get deed, and should there be two different functions? And that's just going to involve kind of poking through source control. Dang. That's going to involve poking through the uses of it, and there may not be very many, and figuring out what's going on. In fact, there's not a lot. We have the to-do item to look at it, and we have two other places. We have the helper function getDeedID, which uses getDeed. And then once you have that deed, you just go out and get the ID. Which is funny because first thing we're doing is getting that ID, and then we're using it to look up the deed, and then this is just undoing it to go back and get the ID. So there's a little bit of redundant work there. The other one is for cascade deed completion, which is when you complete something that's a prerequisite for other things. So in the troll shroud, if you complete Explorer of the Angle, that by definition, you should complete the other two things. Ooh, hey. Oh, interesting. Well, first of all, why do we have an error? Ooh, that's exciting. All right, let's go ahead and document this. Oh, and the to-do file. Pause. We're going to hoist up this because that's what we're currently working on. All right, so what's going on here? Attempt to index the local field, question mark, a nil value. Well, we don't want that. Let's find main win, line 89. Main win, line 89. Get region expanded. Okay. So we're making some assumptions here that are not valid. Attempt to index field. Okay, that doesn't give us a lot of information though, because what we want to know is which of those fields is nil. There we go. So if you're looking at another character, we're triggering it that way. And so what we want to do is get a sense of which one of these are the nil ones. Or do we care? I don't know that I care. If it's not expanded, it's not expanded. So if local expanded equals, let's say a compound statement. So we want car data. Character UI is not equal to nil, and car data, I'll start doing some copy pasting here. Tab is not equal to nil, and tab region is not equal to nil, and car data UI tab region expanded is a truthy. And if any of those fail, then it's not expanded. We don't care. I don't need that to be strictly very correct. I just want it to not crash. So if we come in here and we click, okay, we're still getting something. 98, okay. So set region expanded. We're gonna need more than that. Okay, so debug Straighten out format. And what we want is in place of character, we want character. And then we want tab and region. Those are both numbers. Tab region. So let's reload this with this updated logging. And we're coming in here to Tidlos. Huh. Oh, of course. 99. No, not of course. Let's be simpler about this. Let's go ahead and dump the character data, character UI, because I expect that's missing, and I think I know why. So let's go ahead and reload. Why does it keep saying you're out of range? What am I pressing? And did it actually load? Okay, so Tidlos. Orofanian. Okay, well, there's a lot of stuff here. Awesome. Let's just limit it to the tab that we're on. All right. It's failing to recreate the problem. So we're going to go ahead and start back over. Adding a debug statement should not have fixed the problem. What is going on here? All right, I'm going to get rid of the debug function, bring these files back, and try it again. Oh, there are some underneath the plugin manager. That's why I keep clicking here. Okay. Tidlos, Rovanian. Okay. It's when there isn't an expanded. That's interesting. And does it do it again if I reload? You're still being clicked. Rovanian. Nope, for Tidlos. Okay. Attempt to index the field. But why? I thought UI was adapted in main. Well, maybe not. I mean, it should be there. We are creating I and J. Let's come look at the actual file. I think that'll illuminate things more than the poking around that I'm doing. All right, we're looking at the Tidlos. So we don't care about the deeds. Don't care about uncleared, although that's a lot of uncleared ones. The UI. Okay, this is what we care about. 1, 2, and what we're looking for is Ravanian is 7, so we're specifically looking for 7. All right, let's actually set that to false, so see if we can trigger it right in the outset. Okay, unload, detracker loaded back up, Tidlos, Ravanian. No. My goodness. All right, reset. Oh, yes. Okay. Well, I think I'm being thrown off by the fact that I'm going true Ravani, and what's actually happening is Swanfleet and Cardalon didn't exist, and so there was no UI entry for that. And we were only converting the entries that did exist, not the entries that should possibly one day exist. And so what we're looking for is, let's go ahead and create these one more time. Always unload first, then muck with your save files. Okay, we're gonna come on in and yeah, the problem is this Swanfleet and Cardalon. So when I move away from that, at least I think it is, not on Affidal, but on Tidlos, go to Eriador, go to Ravani, and that's what it is. So we're trying to say this, the expansion state of Swanfleet and Cardalon, and it doesn't exist. And so what I want to do is I want to come in here, and for Tidlos, look at not a Ravanian, but look instead for Eriador. So number 6. And number 6 is going to have 13, but it needs that number 14, I think. We can kind of double check ourselves. Let's crack open Eriador. Oh, there's a better file for that. Data files, ddata. Which one am I looking for? I've lost it. The IDs. Deed info. Excellent. And in here, Swanfleet and Cardalon is number 14. Okay. That is the problem. And so what we're looking for is if character UI equals nil, then that equals a table, end. And we just want to go through that process for each one of these. So if that tab equals nil, then that tab equals table. And then if that region equals nil, and then the region equals a new table. And that will let us set the expanded property of that correctly, with just a little bit of extra. Most of these checks will be false, like nothing will happen because they do exist. Okay, so we move out of Ravanian, we come on back. That's what it is, and with Tidlos, we go to Eridor, we go to Ravanian, and everything just works. And if we unload this, we're going to see that Tidlos now has that correctly. I feel like I already had that open. Oh well. Now, in the UI, we should see number 14 pop up. So, let's see. Eridor was 6. Okay. Coming into number 6, we don't have a 14. Interesting. Why not? Oh, because we don't say about the other characters, so we only say about the current character. And so when Tidlos eventually loads it up, this would be a fix. But in the meantime, we fix it up in memory and then don't worry about it. We can replicate this. We can replicate this problem and the solution by coming into Affodils and going into Affodils UI, finding the 6 section there, and just deleting number 14. So what should happen, what did happen, without all of this, let's go ahead and replicate the problem. Coming on in, Affodils on Eridor, Ravanian, no, it worked. It might be that when you load a character, we might actually check that. Let's see. Check care data. Let's take a look at that. Do we muck with the UI stuff? Wait. Yes. Okay. So we fixed the UI information for the loaded character. This was just an issue when looking at another character, because if they haven't been loaded yet, their UI information might be incomplete. Let's document that so we know why on earth we did this. Okay. When viewing the deed status of another character, if they haven't if deed tracker hasn't been loaded while they are logged in, then their UI structure might be incomplete / wrong. Fix it up before check that what we're looking for is present before accessing it. And instead of doing it as a function block, I'm going to do that as a comment block inside the function as an implementation detail. And then same thing over here. We want to go ahead and uncomment this, and really it's the same thing. All right. Check that before saving. Okay, and that will do it for us. And that's one of those things, that one of those edge cases where this is not caused by the save file format. This is caused by the addition of a new region and not taking that into account. And so this might have actually bit us before in Ravanian where other regions had been added, but just hadn't looked at the Ravanian tab of another character after that addition, before logging in with that character and just fixing the problem implicitly. So that's a subtlety that I was not expecting from that. I figured it was just a version 2 to version 3 glitch again. So let's come on in and get that committed. All right, so to do file updates. We have Raiders. Welcome. As you all are coming on in. I see by Duran's beard. Well, welcome. We're working through the Deed Tracker plugin here on Plugin Along. We're sitting on top of Glenhelig here in Swanfleet, one of the most topographically interesting Hobbit villages, as far as in my opinion. More by Duran's beard. Welcome. So yes, we are working through some bugs in the Deed Tracker plugin. Just fixed one with viewing the deeds of another character. So we're going to go ahead and mark that as complete. So be more careful about assuming the UI structure is there. Whoops, don't want all that. So we're going to head and commit that, and we're back. So yes, this is all about the, today is all about the Deed Tracker plugin. This is a plugin that you can get. In fact, let me go ahead and throw that plugins command in there. If you're not familiar, there are plenty of plugins available for Lord of the Rings Online. Deed Tracker is one that I put together, and it's meant to be working in concert with the in-game deed log, showing you in a more hierarchical sense what's going on. And the German language is supported, so if for any of you who might be German speakers, as your by Duran's beard call might indicate, it does work. And let me go ahead and fake that out. Language. Where are we populating? I gotta remember where this is populated. There we go. Get client language. Language that. We're actually just going to say language. Get client language. We're going to return German. Result equals D. So, this is not an English, well, it is developed by me, so it is probably English-centric in some ways I don't realize, but this can be run in both German and French, and you'll get the various German and French names for deeds, locations, and whatnot. So we can see Auenland instead of Shire, and so on. All right, we're going to go ahead and put it back into English, though, because it's going to be a little bit easier for me to develop in if it is in English. Okay, so how is our working directory after messing with things? It is still clean. So we can think about, do we have time to keep exploring? I think we do. We were looking at the use of get deed here. Duran on Halt Tiner says, very good, it works in German. Yes, there's currently actually a bug. One of the things I'm working on with this release, there is a bug with the detection of when you complete some deeds. And this is due to, in German, the number of the deeds that are like Goblin Slayer of Cardolan conjugate differently depending on whether your character is male or female. The way in which Deed Tracker accounts for that broke a little bit in the last release, so in this next release that's going to get fixed. So any non-gendered deed name still auto-detects just fine. It's just things like Goblin Slayer. So that's a thing to watch out for, I guess. And French has the same issue and the same bug affected it. How I account for those different names for the deeds, there was a mistake in that, is all. Okay, so we were finding uses of the get deed and trying to figure out if it needed to exist at all. And then we found bugs. So we have local possible deed equals get deed. Okay, what are we looking for? We're trying to figure out if there is a deed that we should be looking at. And we could convert that into a get deed or category and then just exclude categories here. And same thing, if this was get deed or category, and in fact, get deed or category is just explicitly calling out there could be a category there, but it could just be called get deed if we were comfortable with that. And I'm curious how many places are using that. These are not highly used functions, not by themselves. And so if we were to go ahead and call get deed or category, but return, let's see, how do we do? We would check for the type right here. Oh, that's what I was doing. I was trying to complete some deeds, but you can't complete the deeds of someone else. So we return to our own, we check to make sure that the cascade deletion works. Looks like in chat, Darren Haltiner is fighting through the woods of Lothlorien, finding orc camps nearby. Indeed. Lothlorien is such a change of scenery compared to the Khazad-dûm that you just come out of. Like, you spend however long of real world and in-game just going through these underground caverns, and suddenly trees! Okay, so we have here, if possible deed, and category deed, possible deed type is not equal to category. So this will work actually in the current setup because that type would not be, I think. So let's give that a try. Okay, that still works. In which case we could say or category. All right, so that's one less use of get deed. And if we look at the other one, get deed ID, we can do the same thing. And category deed.type does not equal category. So we can do local deed equals get deed or category. And we can see there's no syntax problem with that. I don't know where get deed ID is getting used though. It's not. No, it's used in one place. Interesting. Why? Is that faction or completion time? But who's calling this that doesn't have the deed ID? And Haltiner is so tired of seeing caves, dirts, and rocks. Yeah. I really enjoy what Moria does with the three-dimensionality of it. Most places are very still two-dimensional with just more hills and whatnot, and you're in a cave. But a few places, especially Foundations of Stone, really kind of lean into the stuff on top of other stuff, especially around the outpost there. And it's not a lot, but I enjoy that, getting to play around with that a little bit. All right, so we have a set faction or completion time. And what are we even doing with I, J, and K? We're only calling get deed ID. This seems not great to me. And what I would like to do is go ahead and convert this to passing the deed ID. And how do we know what it is? Well, we are doing a bunch of stuff with a deed here. And so what I want to do is just confirm that we have a current deed. We have a current deed. And so what we can do is, instead of I, J, and K, let's go ahead and pass the... Well, what are we using it for? we're using the ID just for the save entry. So all we need is the deed ID. Okay. So we're going to go deed ID instead of IJ and K. And what we're going to do is come on over here, and we're going to replace that with current deed.id. And the other one, checkbox change. Okay, great. Same thing, current deed.id. And we're just going to do a quick little sanity check, make sure that works syntactically. It does. And if we go ahead and do a completion, I am not seeing the completion time happening though, so that is a concern. I need a nil check. Do I? Not sure about that. Fine. Let's go ahead and see where this is. I guess a nil check would be nice. I mean, if this were a more bracy language, I would expect to have a continue keyword where we can just skip past this iteration of the loop. Loop doesn't have continue, so it's a little bit harder. Nordman says, definitely, Khazad-dûm is great when saying it for the first time, but a little bit boring after 2 months. I can get that. I can get behind that. I was doing a speed run on a character on Crick Hollow, and I was able to clear all of the quests of Moria. And by clear, I mean I wasn't reading them. I was just accepting them and going and doing them because I know Moria pretty well. And I was able to just do as many of them. And I was able to clear the vast majority of landscape quests in Moria in a day or two of play, maybe just a few hours. But it really, you miss a lot of the grandeur of Khazad-dûm when you do that. You miss a lot of the story. It was just a question of literally how fast could you do all these landscape quests if you wanted to. And I didn't get all of the statue pieces, and I didn't get all of the mirrors, but all of the quests from quest hubs that you could pick up and do, pretty much all of those. And Haltino says, first thing outside was taking a deep breath, deeper than Khazad-dûm itself. I get that. I appreciate if you're going through, I think it's the epic, I appreciate the storyline is like, hey, let's go gather up some flowers and plant them in vases as a kind of a, yay, we're in the outside. Now that's not entirely fair. Like, Jezergund has, or Thrak-Bazan has plants, right? Improbable, but it's very planty. But most of Khazad-dûm lacks that. I did appreciate in the Rings of Power show, and this is not spoilerly related, except that they go into Khazad-dûm. And there are some plants there. And I appreciate it's not just bare stone walls. Little Red says, plants in Moria, the magic of those mirrors. It is like magic. And to be fair, some plants can do very well in low light conditions, but that's super low light. We'll just thank Ivana for making some of those. Okay. I'm not going to worry about a null check on that deed. We have bigger problems if that deed doesn't exist. But I am not seeing that set faction or complete time. So what we want to do is, of course, because we didn't actually update this. So we just get rid of that deed and a deed ID access, and now we should just have the deed ID. There we go. Those times are working now. Awesome. Okay, so we're back in business. And what that means is we've eliminated the uses of this function, I think. So if we can see no one's using this function. And if no one's using this function, we should probably just delete this function. I'm assuming, yeah, there's plenty of uses of that, not a problem. So we have the getDeed function. What's using this now? Nothing. So what do we do with it? We delete it. But first, it's nice to kind of double check visually that it's doing the same thing as its replacement, or rather its replacement is doing the same thing as it. So as we look through here, we're checking I and ij. Okay, we do the same thing. We get a deed lookup equals ijk. Here we call it an item. Here we had a lookup failure. I think I want to hoist that or bring that in. I think I would still like to know about that. IJK lookup failure. And let's expand on that. Let's include the name of the function so we don't have to wonder so much. IJK lookup failure. And you know, we could do this a little bit more fluently if we do a string.format and come on in and just go ahead and number, and number, lookup failure, exclamation point, we're very excited, and just pass these in as parameters instead. Let's do that instead. I think it'll be a little bit nicer if we're ever actually getting this error message. In the meantime, what else do we have? We get the ID, same thing. If ID return the thing. Okay, and then we have the extra category stuff. And finally, if that doesn't happen, you know, it'd be nice to log that as well. Let's go ahead and if, oh, we don't even need an if statement because if we're here, we're about to return nil. Okay, so get deed category. Yeah. And we should have a separate message so we can more easily identify. Found nothing. Okay, and then hopefully we never see those. Hopefully our data files are set up in such a way that that's just not a thing. All right, so the two, find uses of getDeed. Check if they should be getDeed or category. I think not because they needed to be getDeed or category, but because having two almost identical functions is just asking for discrepancies to creep in between them, which just results in harder to maintain code. Because now you have 17 references to the one and 23 references to the other, and they do almost identical things, but not quite. And do those differences matter? And yeah, anyway. Der Angel Tino says, I wish everyone a wonderful stream. Much fun by watching those magic of coding that happens over here. Thanks for stopping by. This is a little bit of a different stream than a lot of people who are just enjoying the game of LOTRO. But this is the meta game of LOTRO for me. Okay, so we can go ahead and delete that. And the getDeed function itself. And we want to update this comment, actually. I want to place that comment. All right, perfect. And then we can knock off the getDeed here, and done. One more thing done. And you know what? We have hit the 2-hour mark without me even realizing it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and start wrapping up here. So if you have any last minute questions, comments, concerns, let's go ahead and pop them into chat or save them until next week. And I'm going to go ahead and take a snapshot and do a commit here of those changes. So eliminated redundant plugin functions. getDeed. I guess I should actually look at which ones they are. Deleted getDeed IJK and getDeed ID IJK. Great, I like all those changes. We're going to go ahead and bring that in. And in main window, or main win, we can see that IJK was replaced by the deed ID, and we no longer do the lookup. So that's great as well. Bam. Okay. So we've made some really good steps here, fixed some noticeable bugs, made some improvements, and are just working through this list of things to do before we release this to the wider world. And as mentioned at the beginning of this, I'm hoping to make that happen in February because it's been a long time since a release. There's some cool stuff in here, and we want to get that out to people. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. Okay, I'm not seeing any more chat coming in, so I think this might be a good place to transition to an ending. Let me see what I'm missing here. Nothing. All right. Well, I can't. Not sure if this is sunrise or sunset. Probably sunset. What time is it in game? Dusk. Yes. So we've been in Glenhillig all day. Awesome. Okay. Neat. That's all we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I do hope to see you here again next week. And until then, keep plugging along. All right. Bye bye now.